Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today I want to cover my evolving philosophy when it comes to the best QA strategy you could have in your startup in 2024. There's new tools, there's new processes, things are evolving so fast. I think you can absolutely maximize the velocity that you want to have and have significantly more stability than ever before. So with that, let's get started. So having worked with roughly 40-ish startups over the last 5 years, I see two patterns. One is the sort of build features fast and then hire QA once it starts falling apart, right? So you build a feature, you build a feature, you build a feature, and then eventually it starts to topple. So then you bring QA in to start testing and you're like, hey, we have no real foundation of unit tests or integration tests or white box tests, and we just need to start testing stuff. It works in the sense of it maximizes the velocity and the time to market, but it leaves this really underlying, not particularly strong foundation. Eventually it does slow you down because your velocity is spent fixing tickets and doing some of these other things. I know people are going to ding me on these terms, but you end up having to do so many more bug fixes because your new features are causing bugs that it just hurts your velocity. The other approach that I see a lot of startups taking is basically your TDD or BDD style, to go slower, to go faster. You're having your developers write tests before they write features, are very much hand in hand, and you don't necessarily have the same feature output, particularly initially, because it does slow down. And there's also a lot of times I feel like cultural challenges where TDD and BDD, there's a lot of developers who I think understand the value, but just want to be building stuff. They want to be features. They're creators, they're builders. And so you end up with a much more stable product, and over time, eventually do get a much faster release cycle. Ultimately just asking people to do something that they're not particularly passionate about, which is a builder or developer building out extensive test automation coverage. The question is why and what's evolved, right? The main reason to have the sort of TDD, BDD developer building out the white box test coverage is because there's been such a knowledge gap, traditionally speaking, of what QA can understand and do and can add alongside what a developer can do and add. Can QA really add unit tests to a function that they don't understand or know? People are like, we can't spend the time and energy for QA to come up to speed. This is the biggest thing that's changed. In my mind, the right QA in today's world, whether you hire someone or work with a partner like us, should absolutely be able to do extensive white box testing with tools like Cursor, some of these other LLM tools, and they should be working hand in hand with your devs. As your devs are making changes, they're pushing the commit, the tester is pulling down the commit, they're evaluating it, they're refactoring it, they're updating the white box tests, the black box tests, they're then adding unit tests, integration tests, component tests, all of these tests that traditionally maybe the dev would have to do because the barrier of understanding what the dev do was so much higher. And then at the end, maybe that tester is doing some manual testing. But it's so much more possible now. And we're doing it every day where we're able to keep up with multiple developers in adding tests at the white box layer. So you get the benefit of this really stable suite that builds up, but you're not taking your developer and asking them to write a bunch of tests, which they don't want to do. The only real argument is that if you ask them to write tests, they'll have more testable code, right? Because you have to write them to unit tests. But that's actually a process problem. Like, work with them on making more testable code. Don't force them to write tests. What I've really found, even in the last couple months of really starting to lean in heavily to this, and even in the last couple weeks of starting to really implement Cursor on some of these projects, is that there's two forms of human psychology. There are your builders, your creators of the world, the developers who just want to produce stuff, and then there are the testers of the world and the people who absolutely love testing and understanding the nuance of testing and the details. Yes, traditionally speaking, a developer who's doing the testing, sure, that can work, right? You can have TDD, BDD, it makes sense, but they don't really love testing. They're not going to go to the depth that you need. They're not going to get the coverage that you need. I really do believe that they are two fundamental psychology differences. And a startup in today's world needs to empower their builders, right? Your velocity of features. You need great builders who are pushing out great code and new features. And today, you can actually have great testers who can keep up with the stuff like the unit tests, the integration tests. They can push back on some of these changes. They can be a part of the code base, right? I don't think a lot of QA necessarily today are ready for that. And I think that a lot of organizations have not. But where I'm going to push for is a startup that says, hey, we're just going to have our developers do automation. you are not going to be maximizing the output of your developers or the cultural sort of output by telling them, hey, you have to do testing, when the reality today is that they can just be told build and a tester will be able to keep up with them. And so when it comes to that, I really am going to advocate that today's world, QA, you should still be able to build like this. Your features go out with extensive white box testing, with good black box testing, great coverage, but let your builders build. Let this new generation of testers with the tools that they have keep up with the unit tests, the integration tests, all of these white box tests, and maximize both parties and what they're passionate about. With that, that really is my view for the best thing that a startup can do. Have 4 or 5 devs, have one great tester that can go in, be that person, avoid the feature, and just bring testers. At the same point, don't ask your developers to slow down and have to do this stuff. Lean into what's going to get you that revenue from a development standpoint, and trust that with today's tools, the AI components and the ability for a QA person to have a built-in tutor in the code base to explain to them, hey, what is this function supposed to do? How should I test it? And to have someone who's passionate about getting that coverage go hand in hand. So leave comments into the comment section. Like I said, this is kind of evolving in my mind over the last 2-3 months. I really want feedback and pushback on it. Thanks for checking out the video. We'll be posting videos daily on business days. Check out our website at workwithloop.com. Go find a tester who's capable of doing this. And if you can't find a tester who's capable of doing this, reach out to us because we're happy to get you started. So wish you the best on your startup success in your journey. I know how hard it is. Good luck out there, and thanks for checking out the channel. Talk soon. Bye.